All right, I am back once again with the Maoshan healing wizard Patrick Giguere. And so he emailed me and said he had some really cool stuff to share having to do with corroborating some of my recent research into the origins of Taoism, which, for those who haven't seen it, there's a video I made that the first Taoists were demon hunters, and that Taoism evolved from a practice of shamans who were seeking to defend themselves and defeat evil spirits that were seeking to feed off of them. That's how they viewed the world, and this is where Taoism came from. Was those guys? Even though you would think it's a bunch of bald-headed guys like me sitting in bamboo groves and seeking to be spiritual and loving, and no, they were badass demon fighters who did two things. They fought demons and they repaired the fabric of reality. That's what I love about it. All right, so that's the setup. What have you got for us?
All right. So I put some notes together as usual and to keep me on task and because I'm a king of tangents. So, yeah, the so I saw that video of yours. A great video. If you guys haven't seen that, watch that video because that got the gears in my mind rolling because a lot of what I work with in my acupuncture practice is body pain. So people get stuff like lower back pain and sciatica and shoulder pain and, whatever kind of pain in the body. And there are some conditions that make me look really good. The first treatment, sciatica is one of them. You do the sciatica treatment, you put the long needles in the glutes and you get the glutes kind of energetically activated, and then they start helping the lower back. And people say, "Oh my God, I've had sciatica for 20 years, and now I feel great." And I'm like, "Oh, thank you." It's like, wow, that's all in a day's work. So that can make me look good, but sometimes I have that to deal with in a patient. I do my thing, it doesn't work, and then we're like three, four treatments deep, and nothing's working. And it's like, what the hell? So what you can do, what I have at my disposal are these possession treatments, and I also have the 13 ghost points. Um,
Ooh, 13
yeah,
post points.
really neat, really neat. So, and the thing I find with body pain, sometimes body pain is just body pain, but usually there's a whole psycho-emotional thing involved because our bodies function based on our emotions. Because our bodies are like electromagnetic storage devices, like our smartphones and computers, and they process emotions. And when emotions get stuck, a system goes down and starts dragging the other systems.
Yep.
So, with something like sciatica that usually makes me look good, when I'm not looking good, I say, okay, I think there's an emotional component. And I'll start getting into these possession treatments and these ghost points. And more often than not, we get a breakthrough. And the person says, wow, you only did 7 needles or 3 or 4 needles, and it wasn't even near where the pain was. How the hell did that work? Well, we get possessed by like you're talking about very frequently. We get possessed by our own brain children.
Yeah.
We have an emotion and we think about it, and you build this whole egregore, this whole spiritual being that we built.
Yep. And then it burrows into you and starts talking to you all the time. You're no good. Why the hell don't you have
Yeah.
20-inch arms? How much money do you have?
And that's a subject we're going to get into about the talk.
Cool.
Yeah, there's a guy in Asheville, North Carolina, Jeffrey UN. He um he doesn't run the acupuncture school there, but he's a big presence there. And he flies all over the world and teaches people about acupuncture. He fled China as a teenager, um, in the early 80s, I think. And he was already, he was initiated already. He's something like an 88th generation Taoist priest.
Wow.
I don't know the lineage off the top of my head. But he was a political refugee and he settled in New York City and then made his way to the mountains in North Carolina. So yeah, so I'm drawing upon, some of the information he's put out there. So yeah, pretty awesome stuff.
Okay.
Um,
Let me turn off this light because it's bugging me.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
And I just sent a little request for the screen sharing. Awesome.
Okay, we got that all ready to go. Very
So let's start with, so top of my notes here, we get possession symptoms.
good. Oh,
So what may clue a practitioner in, not just an acupuncturist, but a very skilled and experienced energy practitioner like yourself, or a body worker, whoever. What may clue people in? Anxiety. Well, we got wall-to-wall anxiety in the world. Depression, bipolar disorder, manic depression. Schizophrenia is a big one. PTSD, OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, insomnia, and all about that. Nightmares goes with PTSD and anxiety, panic attacks, phobias. Addiction is a huge one.
hmm.
And I've heard you discuss this. I've heard a lot of people over the years talk about this. It's like these entities that we create, they like to do certain things with our bodies. They like the energy of the
Yeah.
abuse of our bodies.
Okay, do me a favor. Let's come out of the graphic now so people can see our faces.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, addiction's a huge one, and we've got a world full of addiction. It always has been, but I personally think it's worse than it probably has ever been. Um, and so, yeah, yeah,
Okay, so I can go for hours on each of these, but let's just
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
want I want to hear what you have to say. So addiction is a sign of possession according to this Taoist information. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
So I do know, I don't know this. I believe this to be true. I've heard of it and I believe it that there are spirits floating around that are addicts. Like, and so what'll happen is they hang around places, they hang around, places where drugs are being taken, sold, and when somebody is under the influence, they like to then slide inside their aura and then get high with them. And then, of course, they will then um, push the person to keep doing more of the drugs. Or if, stay with them and then you need to go get high now. This time you need to take more. And so this, the obsession is more than just their own addiction. It's also the addiction of some spirit that is slid into their aura. That's what I've heard. So how does that align? And I don't need to be right about that. I don't need that to be true, but I'm interested to know how does that align with the information you have as a TCM healer?
Yeah. I think that is I think that's I think that's highly plausible, pretty dead on, and the medicine seems to corroborate it. So, we have in Chinese medicine you have several souls. You have these different spirits in the organs. Um one in so when our life here in 3D Earth ends, the Shen goes to where it goes.
Right, right.
Um, the spirit of the liver, they call it the ethereal soul, the Hun. That one, they say that goes back to the realm of consciousness. Now, one of the earthbound spirits is the spirit of the lungs called the Po.
Hmm.
And it's a very earthbound spirit. And what they talk about is that it sort of stays in this realm for a little while. It kind of gets recycled by the earth. It's like in the Looney Tunes when Bugs Bunny or Elmer Fudd, they get like knocked out of their body and like the energetic double like sinks into the earth and goes to hell and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Very similar to what they consider the Po to do. So the Po, the spirit of the lungs, it's a double of your physical body. And since the color of the lungs, it's white, it's got that whitish pale kind of color, and ghosts tend to look pale. So,
Interesting. So that correlates with traditional Siberian shamanism
wow.
that says that there are three selves, which I gravitated to early on in the stuff that I teach because I think it's really amazing and accurate. And they say the same thing. They say that your actual soul goes somewhere else, but your lower self, which is all of your unconscious patterns, unresolved emotions, and your identity, what I call your third dimensional fictional avatar. That's actually, according to them, that resides in your lower self. And if you die without having unified all this stuff, then that gets squished out onto the earth plane and runs around as a ghost, and it will say, my name is John Smith and I lived so and so and it'll act like you. And so people will go, "Oh, it's the house is haunted by the ghost of so and so and actually so and so is long gone."
Hmm.
They might even be reincarnated somewhere, but their AI avatar is running around playing its program out because it didn't get to, whatever it was. So you're saying that Taoism basically teaches the same thing. Very interesting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then there are, ghosts are a big deal in East Asia.
Yeah.
Pre-communism, Chinese people, regardless of their level of education, social standing, would tell you, "Oh yeah, I see ghosts all the time." And it's like they have like ghost weddings. So it's like if you have, say, a child or a family member that dies at an early age, people will have a dream, and that family member will come to them and say, "Hey, the I want to marry the ghost of someone from this other family that lives in your city." And people will get a name that they can like look up in the phone book.
Wow.
They'll call each other and they'll say, "Oh, that's great. Well, and they go to a Taoist temple and they have a ceremony."
Wow.
And you know, since the 50s, Chinese people don't like to, mainland China don't like to admit to that, but uh people in Hong Kong, Taiwan, Chinese communities, Philippines, Indonesia, whatever. In Japan, totally acceptable. People see ghosts all the time and
Yeah. Yeah.
so they have all these categories of ghosts. Broadly, these categories are orphan ghosts, vengeful ghosts, and most important, well, wandering ghosts, and then most importantly are hungry ghosts. So the hungry ghost, it goes back to the addiction. And people, you've seen it a million times in your life. People will make a substance like their identity.
Yeah.
Like I call it like in the 60s and 70s, I call it like the Cheech and Chong youth. It's like
Yeah.
Third Reich had a Hitler youth and we had a Cheech and Chong youth, and it's like the whole lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's like Colorado where I went to school. It's like they legalized, and it's like
Yeah.
everybody who uses that as an identity is there now.
Yeah.
Um, you go to any like micro breweries are a huge deal now. You go to any of them in the country, and it's like that's like an identity for people. It's like everywhere I go and I drink the micro brews till I fall off the stool.
Yeah. And they're proud of it.
Yeah.
They're proud of it. I rented a house and they had hung up in the Florida room, a man's got to believe in something. I believe I'll have another beer. And you're supposed to go, I drink beer. You and I, we drink beer. You're my pal, and it's just, it's just somebody admitting to their idiocy. Just, that's what you believe in. Good for you. I'm so proud of you. Congratulations. And I see people, when they come down to the beach and, they're carrying their alcohol, and I don't say anything to them because, none of my business, but in my mind, I go, well, at least you got your alcohol. Yeah, you might be bored off your ass, but hey, I'm doing something here. I'm drinking my alcohol, doing something important, smoking a cigarette and drinking.
Oh, I don't miss it.
Yeah. All right. So now that we've alienated all of the smokers and drinkers and pot smokers,
Yeah, yeah. So yeah. So yeah, these hungry ghosts, that's a big deal. Um, just in Chinese culture, and I've heard, heard this from some of my teachers. They're like, if you're gonna drink, they're like, don't do it in public places where these people used to hang around.
hmm,
Because if they've identified with that habit and that whole scene, that's where this energetic residue is gonna go.
yep,
And they're gonna look for a body that's got a sufficiently weakened liver
yep.
where they can slip in through a crack.
So yeah, that's important because the liver is what is extremely powerful in creating the protective shield around the body, which is why
Totally.
Thor is associated with fighting the demons or the trolls in the east. The east is the direction of the identity, and Thor creates a protective barrier, has to do with boundaries. So this is why, again, my experience with, when people drink, they even if they're in that really happy state, they can't help but just have no respect for your boundaries. They get in your face and they tell you something and they can't regulate their speaking voice and even though they're smiling, their their energy is all over the place. They have no boundaries. Their boundaries, they have no respect for your boundaries. So you're saying that that's one of the ways that spirits get in you is through your liver. That would
Yep.
also mean that people who are plagued with resentment, because that's
Yeah.
liver also.
Yeah, you could be a lifelong teetotaler, but if you're sufficiently worn down and weakened by resentment, you might as well have been drinking something every day.
Because yeah, your energy's you're protective. Is that the Wei Qi? Is that coming from the
Yeah, the liver has a big role in that. The Wei Qi, the ruler and the distributor is the lungs. The lungs make like like an airplane has like the metallic skin on the body of it that's like all riveted to the frame. The lungs make like the metallic skin, and then the liver generates the pressure that keeps
ah,
that skin kind of like inflated, you know what I mean? The liver gives it volume.
yeah, interesting. Very interesting. So just as a side note, there are people on my channel who are doing the Maoshan five element spirit fighting, and I tell people in the beginning that if they can't afford to get all five elements, just get started with the wood. And my thought process is because ether is like the entryway, or the wood is the entryway of all the five elements. So it's like wood and earth have all the five elements. And so those are two safe elements to work with. And but it's also striking me that our modern society, you can pretty much bank that the average person is going to be weak in the wood element at the very least.
Yeah, and even like spending, like abusing screens, like screen time, like that has a whole effect on the wood element in the
Really
liver.
interesting.
Yeah. It's like, if you have a very well-developed energy body, you can keep that energy, the technology out there. But, if not, it just, what it does is it kind of depletes it
Yeah.
because
Okay.
your liver maintains your eyes and your nervous system and, it just puts demands on it.
So another reason why modern people probably have can use more healthy wood element. But I make it very clear that people should get the other elements as quickly as possible because you want to get that cycle moving. You want all those elements working together. It's very important. But
Oh,
anyway,
yeah. It's just amazing self-development.
all right. So I've taken us kind of just getting stuck. So where else do you want to go with this? I want to.
Yeah. So as far as the possession treatments, that's kind of interesting because, well, and so let me do a little segue with the possession treatments. So I don't want to go through all the individuals, but in Chinese medicine, you've got three huns, so like three ethereal souls, and then four pos, so these more earthbound spirits. So another way to talk about these are the seven dragons, because souls are very often depicted as dragons.
Yeah.
So with the possession treatments, we break these into two broad categories. So you've got one protocol is the seven external dragons, and one category is the seven internal dragons. So the external dragons, so you use seven needles. For the external dragons, there's going to be one, like basically right at the base of your skull. Basically, if you slide off that knob on the back of your skull going downward towards your neck, and there's that depression at the
Hmm.
very top of your neck between the muscles. That's Dumai 16. So that is a point. It's like your brainstem point, but it's also what's called a regulator for wind. So that the back of your neck is like the switch that controls the pores on your entire body.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's where we catch a cold, basically. So it's like,
People wear scarves.
yeah, especially if you're exercising outdoors in the cold weather and it's breezy, like when you sweat, your pores open. So once you're finished and you're on your way home, you want to cover the back of your neck. Because if it's wet, and the pores are open, you get a blast of wind there, the pores are going to spasm shut. And then that cold pathogen is going to get stuck in your body. You're going to start coming down with something.
Yeah.
So in Chinese medicine, diseases work in layers. They get under the skin. Sometimes you first feel that chill, you can get in a hot shower and all of a sudden, like it's gone. You thought you were getting sick and it's gone. Well, you open the pores up and you floated the pathogen out. Pores opened up and the body was like, okay, get out of here.
Hmm.
All these things with the ghosts work just like that. So that's one of those important points there, right on the back of the neck. So we use that one. We use bladder 11. Bladder 11 it's right off of your T1, so where your thoracic spine and the cervical spine join. So where the top of your back and the bottom of your neck join. Bladder 11 is important. It's called the influential point of the bones, influential point of blood. And it's right near the lung point. So it has a lot to do with the lungs and the skin. So you use that one. So that's a pair of points. Then you go down to bladder 23. Those are the points for the access points for the kidneys. And so, you know, let's say you have a fright or something. That's enough to sort of give you, some sort of like a possession. So when we talk about people being possessed, it's when you've had some sort of an experience, whether it's external or internal, and it shifts your normal consciousness. So you start seeing the world in sort of a skewed way that you didn't see it through before. So yeah, so the kidney points, and then the last pair of points, it's bladder 61. So it's on the heel. Um, when you feel around sort of on the outside of your heel, it's like below your ankle bone. There's kind of like a depression. There's like a bowl.
Yeah.
So that is it's a meeting point of some different channels that actually run from head to toe. So a pretty influential point. So those 7 points that release the seven external dragons, those, all the traditional wisdom says use those for external experiences. So you've had a trauma, you've been exposed to extreme weather, extreme cold, extreme wind, extreme heat, something that might disrupt the balance of your body systems. But the traumas, accidents, things like that, those will disrupt your emotional cycles. And then when you go to the internal dragons are on the front of the body. So again, 7 points. The first protocol, it's like right below the angle in your sternum. So you find that arch at the bottom of the ribs.
What I call the
Like so,
people conflate the navel with the
all the solar plexus.
solar plexus. That's what I call the solar plexus.
Yeah. So like an inch down from that arc, there's a tender point.
Yeah.
And that is a point for the she, for the heart mind, the heart protector. So that's point one. Then there's a pair of points that's on each side of your belly button. That's stomach 25. Very helpful point for the stomach and the large intestine. Large intestine gets rid of things physically and psychically. Then we go down to stomach 32. That's about on the front of the thigh towards the outside. It's about 6 inches above the kneecap. And then the last one is on the front of the ankle between the two tendons. Stomach 41. That's the fire point of the stomach. So that fuels the earth element of the stomach. Fire fuels earth. So that front side protocol, that is more for our internal experiences. So we start having obsessive thoughts about some things. Like, there was no trauma, but then we kept thinking about something and thinking and obsessing and scaring the shit out of ourselves about, a paranoid fantasy. Now, these things can kind of run together too, because you can have an external trauma and then you take that on
Yeah.
and it shifts inward. So, sometimes it's hard to draw the line between the two, and external will go internal. But like I said, things work in layers.
So
So,
there was something you said earlier that I wanted to circle back to there. I used a hip term. Um, so you said that, and refresh my memory how you said it, but you said something like something happens and something negative happens, and then we sort of shift our perception, and then
yeah,
we get stuck in this alternate perception.
yeah, it's like
Refresh
one
my
of
memory. How did we get to that?
that is basically that's how the possession starts, whether it's
Okay.
external or internal.
Okay. So something happens that sort of you got all these like bodies, all these, they're all lined up and like they get sort of out of sync, and they're not synced up, they're sort of out of sync.
Yeah, it's
And
like
then
it's like one of those events in life where something will happen to you, and somebody close to you will say, Mike, since that car accident, since that breakup, since you bombed that class, like you haven't been the same.
Okay. And so their perception is often they start to see things. Are you saying they perceive life differently, or they actually
Yes.
perceive things differently in reality? Like they'll see things that they didn't see before, even?
That's more advanced.
Okay. All right. So let's go back to that. So what I like about that, this is what I'm really thinking. I'm spending a lot of time thinking about. This came from an earlier discussion that we had and more research I've been doing on Taoism, which the way I view practical Taoism, I'm talking about religious Taoism or philosophical Taoism or any of that. What I perceive to be what Taoism, was and really is according to my proclivities. That the human body is a talisman, and we can probably find the bagua everywhere. You showed how there's like this bagua that where life actually gets projected into this bagua, and we become these people. But it's the bagua. It's like this talisman, and there's this energy that hits it, and as the energy comes out, it creates this three-dimensional human. And I'm really thinking that, what, because again, I talk about what Taoists want is power. And I've realized that people conflate power with control, which are two separate things. When I say power, I mean just like the actual energy itself. Whereas when people hear the word power, they take it to having the power to control other people or control events. And that's not what I mean. And in fact, that is a lack of power. If you have to control the external things to get what you think you want, it means you don't have any power. But the idea is to shift, like if the Bagua is like a combination lock, to sort of shift it 2 degrees this way, that's going to create a different world. And each world is the result of a probability, infinite probabilities that exist. And we bring a probability and create a world out of it based on our inner alignment, the way we've aligned our talisman. And so that's kind of what I'm hearing you say. There's an event that happens, whatever it is, and then the person's combination gets all scrambled,
Yeah.
and then they're creating, perceiving, projecting a reality it's skewed from where, at least where it was. And so that I'm hearing you say sort of creates an opening for an entity to come in, or a self-created emotional, AI entity that then goes in and possesses us. Am I on
Yeah.
the right track here?
Exactly. Another way they describe it is they talk about one of these events will cause a separation of yin and yang.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow. We could go off on the whole trans thing with that, couldn't we? But we're not going to do
oh
that.
God, yes.
All right, keep going.
Yeah, so there's this Taoist model, that you've discussed a lot. And we've got this paradigm of heaven, earth, and man, heaven, earth, and human, mind, body, soul. Humanity is this meeting point between heaven and earth, between the heavenly yang and the earthly yin. And you want that interplay creates humanity. So when those two forces, when they get separated within each other, basically it's like our humanity gets weakened. And there's a vacuum that has to be filled. Nature abhors a vacuum.
Yep. So some destructive essence and or entity has to come in to fill in the gap.
Yeah. And what's always involved is negative self-talk. That's one of the first signs. And, negative self-talk it's actually its own living entity.
Yep.
I don't know if you ever saw the animated series Full Metal Alchemist,
No.
but one of basically it's like this guy makes these homunculi, it's like these artificial humans in a lab. And one of them can get, huge and big and scary, but really inside this giant body, it's like this little tadpole. And they do something where they destroy the big nasty body, and then they have like the little tadpole thing. And all he can do is like try to talk people into doing what he wants.
Wow.
Like he has none. So that's how it starts. And with this traditional Taoism, this quiet negative self-talk starts. And then it gets us to believe that, oh, it's just a voice in my head. It's me. Oh, yeah, this is just me doing this. And it's like, well, yeah, that's true, but that's not quite true. It's not the real you.
Yeah.
And the more we believe it and the more we go with its flow, it gradually starts to push us out of our own life, basically. So it starts with the negative self-talk, and at the extreme end, it's like full-blown schizophrenia.
Wow.
So then you can start, your perception of the consensus 3D reality goes out the window, and you're
And by schizophrenia, are you also talking about multiple personalities?
sure.
Or are you talking about schizophrenia? Because I mean,
That can be part of it.
okay. I just
That
wanted to
can-
be clear because
yeah.
that's what we used to call schizos, but now they're two separate things. Schizophrenia isn't the same as multiple personalities.
Yeah, a lot of these terms don't translate well, but yeah, but I've asked about that. Like, what about multiple personalities? Or, what about dissociative personality disorder? And
Yeah,
they're like, yeah, all of
yeah,
that.
yeah. Okay. All right. So I wanted to jump in there. I can't remember what I wanted to jump in there about. Um, oh, what I really uh, heard was when you said, at some point, those negative voices push us out. And the way that I heard that was that, we are driving this car. We make decisions, we take actions. But what you're saying is the more that you listen to the negative, parasite or what psychologists would call the introject.
Yeah.
It's such an amazing concept, the introject.
Hmm.
I encourage everybody to go, Wikipedia it and look it up. So what you're saying is some negative voice we allow in burrows its way into us
We identify with it.
and we identify with it. Yeah, the introject is, yeah. And then we start listening to it and then we start acting on it.
Yes.
And the more that we act on it, basically we're telling it to drive the car. And pretty soon it has taken over. It's driving the car and we're in the passenger seat. And no matter what we want, it won't matter because the introject is going to be driving wherever it wants to go. And there's not a damn thing we can do about it. Is that
Yep.
what you're saying?
Exactly.
So that brings me again back to the favorite tool in my life has had the single most powerful tool that I have and continue to try and keep is the ability to take contrary action. And everybody has this. Everybody can do this. You can choose to take an action that is completely contrary to your impulses, your feelings, your perceptions, even what you believe your desires are. You can take an action that you think will kill you. You can still do it. And so, what I'm taking from this is that no matter how far down the process somebody has gone and their introject is telling them everything and they have to do whatever their introject tells them, they can stop at any given time and take the wheel back and decide to take actions, even while it's yelling at you, making you feel like garbage, making you feel frightened, you're making you feel devalued, and because that's what it does. It makes you feel devalued and guilty and shameful. And those feelings, in and of themselves, can't harm you. It's only when we identify with them and act on them that then it gets in. So is that accurate? Then it'll get into the tissues and the different bodies within us and the stuff you're talking about.
110%. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And just even the repetition, the you get, in the beginning there's a little emotional negativity, and then, when you get to the next stage. So with possession, there's there are four stages. And when you make the leap from stage one to two, just the negativity, there's a dramatic increase in negativity. Like it goes from being a sideshow to sort of being like the main facet of the personality. It's like I had a friend in college. I mean, I'm still talk to him, but we've just grown so much apart. But I always said, this kid could steal defeat from the jaws of victory. You know, but it was like really strong introject.
Yeah.
He was just always listening to a voice in his head that, oh, this is definitely gonna suck. Oh, nothing good's gonna happen today.
Yeah.
It's like Eeyore and Winnie the Pooh. We learned about this as children. He's
And
got the rain cloud that follows him.
and being absolutely clueless to something beautiful that's right in front of them, and the voice then creates a picture, and they see the negativity, and then they actually create it. And
Yeah.
and if they had just simply had the freedom and the clarity to see what was actually in front of them. I go through this all the time, by the way. My this is the characterization of my life where my head has in the past told me all kinds of things, and I will have to go, okay, let me take an actual, like write it down. What is actually going on? And I'll compare what's actually going on to what my head's telling me, and I'll go, there's no correlation there. But if I act on that negativity, or if I let it stay within me, then I can't, at the very least, you can't even enjoy what you have. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
So,
it's a foggy window, or it's a dirty window.
all right. Well, I know we've just barely scratched the surface. I think we can come back and talk about more and more. I think we could make a whole series on this. But
Yeah,
before we do that, I want to ask you, because what keeps coming to mind again is the spirit fighting practices that we're doing. And without getting into all the stuff I want to get into, I'd love to hear your take on how those practices and or any of the Maoshan practices that we're doing, how that can actually uh, get rid of the demonic negative entities that all basically all modern humans have running around inside of them all the time.
yeah. Well, so in my experience, these practices, and again, circling back to what you said before, you need the other elements besides wood.
Yeah.
It's like just
Yeah.
bite the bullet and get the other elements.
Yeah.
Um, they are going to focus on specific organ systems, and they're going to start cleansing these organ systems because that's where these our negative thoughts and emotions are originating from.
So a way to look at it, or an accurate Taoist way of looking at it, is that the organs are possessed by evil spirits.
Absolutely, of our own device, our own devising.
And we can, even that, we're saying it in a way where it's more palatable for people to hear, and we're taking responsibility, but at the same time, that can kill you. That possession can end up making you dead.
Yeah. Well, that's a funny thing in Taoism. They always say the human body has enough energy to run for thousands of years,
Yeah.
but we die from an organ system. There's one organ system that'll fail, and it's always from emotional mismanagement.
Which would be again this demonic possession.
Yes. Yes. So with resentment, you're gonna the resentment will eat up the liver yin, will diminish the liver's ability to renew your blood and keep your blood nice and rich. And the liver, just in a physical sense in Chinese medicine, the liver is seen as a protector of the heart.
Yeah. Mm.
And so it can't do that job if it's worn down, and then it goes down the line and then the heart has a problem. Or you can just have plain old cirrhosis and never get to the heart problem.
Yeah. So that's interesting because I see that a lot. Obviously, we see it with like alcoholics. I mean, it's clear alcoholism is just resentment gone berserk.
Yeah.
There's a term I heard. It says, alcohol kills everything that's living and preserves everything that's dead. And it's the perfect uh, description of, an alcoholic just drinking his resentments into his liver, just locking it in there. But I've also seen this with people who severely codependent people who get into really destructive relationships with narcissists and same thing. So they have to damage their own liver emotionally to be able to tolerate the abuse that they're choosing to tolerate. And of course, they
Yes.
want to present themselves as victims,
Yes.
but really they're volunteering to be abused. But in order to make that happen, they just got to like basically punch themselves in the liver to be
Yeah.
able
You
to
know,
reduce so that they can tolerate it.
absolutely. Like a healthy body will be like, no, no effing way.
Yeah.
Um, Along these lines too, and it's very prevalent, is fibromyalgia. Because in Chinese medicine, it's basically seen as like the nervous system is overextended and it's overwhelmed and it can't, because it's trying to extend itself into other people and other situations. And, you know, it's spread too thin. So then you're in pain all the time because it's trying to tell you like, I'm overworked. You gotta rein it in.
Yeah, my sister passed away from what is that, Lou Gehrig's disease? What is that?
Oh no, yeah.
And at the end, she was just trapped in her head. Like she couldn't
Oh,
move.
oh,
And, basically the only thing that could move was her eyes. But it started with fibromyalgia. And yeah, and it's to me, like when she died, the way I saw it was that she had just completely retreated into her into her head because she
oh
just couldn't
no.
tolerate it. And I remember, in one instance, I remember, um, family was together and we were all having a good time. And then she said, "Oh, I'm starting to get a cramp." And that cramp took over her whole body. And they had to lead her out to the car. And this was like something that happened all the time. And the one thing she never did is she never addressed any of her unresolved um, relationship traumas. She had a lot of them, and she never addressed them. Never even addressed her feelings.
Hmm.
So, and yeah, so I would say fibromyalgia killed her, and I'm glad to hear you say that because I've felt it was exactly that. And the point is, my sister's not a victim. I don't believe in fibromyalgia as something that falls down or comes out of your DNA. I believe, I mean, maybe this is, I don't know, and maybe it's not accurate, but I'm of the belief that all disease is a result of our mismanagement of our own emotional sovereignty and the unwillingness to work through negativity, the unwillingness to take responsibility, the unwillingness to take action, that can literally heal everything.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, when people say, "Oh, this illness runs in my family," it's like, Yes, when you act just like your parents and whoever.
Yeah. Yeah, and you've heard me talk about this before. You know, people think that DNA is some kind of blueprint and it's already written in your DNA, you know, how you're going to die and what illnesses you're going to get. And when they've looked at people, you know, identical twins, and they follow them throughout their life, their DNA changes.
Yep.
And people who act, you know, the way that we want them to act from their soul, their DNA changes, and all those, you know, things that they're born with never come to pass. And the other ones who act frightened and angry and like victims, then all of a sudden these DNA things sort of explode and they get, oh, yeah, grandmother so and so had that.
Yeah. Well, quick 30-second tangent. On the EEGs, they've mapped the wave functions of emotions.
Hmm.
So something like joy is like a quick, wave that's kind of shallow, but then, anger is more like, and fear is like, you know. So I think those waves go down the wave of the helix, and it's gonna intersect in
Yeah.
different places, start turning things on.
Yeah. And going back to the idea of talismans, so the DNA is a talisman, energy's hitting that talisman is then projecting the human. And so we can tinker with it. And we can tinker with it by externally, you know, with TCM. We can do it action wise by doing things like the Qigong and the Maoshan practices. We can do it emotionally by examining our emotions. We can do it in our life by taking actions towards our true soul desires. And all of those things will change, like on a combination lock, will change the precise filter, you know, that's filtering the energy, creating this holographic projection of who we are, and it's continuously flowing. So that's all I'm hearing you say.
Hmm.
Well, anyway, that's not all I'm hearing you say, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, there's something I wanted to say or ask. I'm trying to figure out because we're coming towards the end here of this session. Um, you know, you said something about yin and yang getting separated.
Yeah.
One of the things that opens, and it's interesting that that is the main thing that we do in the Maoshan is we are that the Sifu hands is balancing the yin and yang. Same thing with the summoning the immortals. We spend a lot of time, you know, creating that yin and yang and bringing it back together.
Yeah. Yeah, an interesting thing with this whole concept of possession in Chinese medicine is it's the points that are used for these protocols, they tend to be in sort of like little yin valleys in the body, like in the surface anatomy.
Mm.
So they're in like depressions between muscles or, between different features. It's like if you imagine the body as a landscape, the points are always in these little valleys. And something that's really integral to the understanding of this whole possession concept is that it's when we get obsessed with something worldly, something of this 3D yin experience, and we lose the perspective of the heavenly yang energy and we go all in on the earthly. And then these entities that we create that we get possessed by, they live in the dampness, what's called the phlegm. So basically like the inert fluids that the body stores. It's like when you have indigestion, it's like the digestion's not working efficiently. And so the body's actually just storing inert fluids. And what happens is that these inert fluids buffer our emotions away from our internal organs so we don't have to feel them. Like things like alcohol, cane sugar, like they create immense dampness in the body. Someone who drinks like 2 liters of soda a day, it's like they're maintaining dampness in order to basically keep the emotions in the waiting room away from the organs.
Ah.
and then it further wears down the body. So it's basically like you're creating this like swamp within your body for this negativity to live in.
That kind of gives a different perspective on diabetes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Because with type 2, it's like when the liver's too full of resentment, you can't receive sweetness. And then so when people are resorting to keto diets, it's like, well, you can't absorb sweetness from the world because you don't have room for it. That's like a big thing I see in my work where people are like, "Oh, I'm on keto and sugar, carbs are bullshit and they'll kill you." It's like, how do you explain the rest of the world?
Yeah. Or the fact that your brain and your muscles need sugar just to function.
Hmm.
And you can't go out and lift anything without sugar in your, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. There's so much that I want to talk about this. And unfortunately, we don't have any more time today, but let me see if there's. So again, I mean, the whole point of this is we're trying to help people understand that they don't have to live in the negativity of their lives. And it feels like they do.
Yep.
And it's so hard, especially if people try to follow my suggestions to, find out what your true soul desire is, act completely contrary to your fears and your impulses. That's easy to do once or twice, but try doing that for 6 months, try doing it for a year, try doing it for 5 years. It can be very challenging, and I understand why people give up. But I also think that, I mean, the 12 steps to 5D that I have on my channel, I think is extremely helpful for that. And also, the thing that I think is most powerful is the Maoshan energy that we're sharing, the five elements, spirit fighting, any of the practices. And we haven't even gotten into it, but I know you're going to be here in a couple of weeks, and we're going to get into, the first set, the Hands of Infinity, and but I really want to encourage people to take a look at that, because the one thing that I think can be helpful, there are some people that they could feel like they're in a place where they just, no matter what they do, it's not going to be enough. And these practices and this energy have the potential to, to get rid of decades of just pounding your head against the wall trying to move forward.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. One training session is worth dozens of acupuncture treatments.
yeah.
Yeah. I
And
think I think doing these practices, this is the most constructive and peaceful act of rebellion
yeah, I agree.
that you can undertake.
And you go into the deepest possible spiritual, unbelievable, bizarre realities while still being completely physically healthy, which is, a lot of people, they can go really deep and then they get so disconnected from their body that they're not physical anymore. This actually, you become physically more healthy, all the organs get healthy, the emotions work, all the different chis and energies move around, and you get connected to higher dimensions. I don't know of anything that even comes close to what
No.
this does.
Yeah, one more thing I wanted to add about the practices is there's a saying that I encountered in like the polytheistic community, and they say stop praying and start sacrificing. So whenever I do these practices, I want to put some shitty old pattern of like negativity up for sacrifice.
That is the best way to do the practices.
So I'll say, Xuan Wu, I ask you to teach me this set perfectly. I offer as sacrifice I don't want to say I offer this attachment to resentment, self-deprecation, whatever the hell, whatever you have.
Yeah.
And that's powerful. And
And
within a week, if you can do that for a week, you're gonna go, wow, my head's more quiet. I'm not
yeah,
talking shit to myself.
especially with Xuan Wu. I mean, he responds, my experience anyway, he responds very quickly. And
Yeah,
yeah,
like
so
subtle and quick.
in case people don't know, there's, if you go to astrology, sorry, if you go to maoshan.thunderwizard.com, you'll see the Xuan Wu form. It's also in thunderwizard.com in the shop. And so I recommend everybody do that, no matter what level they are in the Maoshan training. I think everybody should be working with that practice and with that entity who's, that deity who's here to help us through what I'm calling phase one of the shift, which is getting that lower Dantian, that navel center, not only getting it organized and cleansed and empowered, but shifted up to a higher frequency.
It's
All
amazing.
right. Any last minute, anything?
Can't think of anything. Well, we'll wait for part two, I think.
Okay. Yeah, let's keep talking about this. So put a pin at wherever we are in your notes, because it looks,
Yeah.
I mean, we could spend weeks talking about all that stuff.
Hmm.
And let's keep this going. I like it, and I think it's helpful, and the channel seems to enjoy it as well. So,
A lot of fun.
all right, it's been amazing, my friend. Thank you so very much.
Thank you and happy meditation.
Thank you.